everybody, to the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr. Now, I was trying to think of a way to introduce my guest today, and I'm just going to kind of tell how I ended up asking this gentleman to be on my channel today and be on 10 Questions. So, a few months back, a friend of ours, Cardboard Crazies, kind of did like almost a roast of a friend of ours, Remy Q, and that's Remy Q Studios. Jeremy and Angel are awesome. If you're not following, go over and check out their channel. But anyway, so he asked a group of us to make these little shorts, kind of roasting Remy. And there was one in particular that when I saw it, it made me laugh so hard. I was like, what is going on? And so that put this person on my radar as a channel that maybe I needed to go, really check out. Somebody that maybe needed to be on 10 Questions. Then last Friday night, in the epic rap battle on DJ Lynx's channel, my man dropped some of the sickest rhymes, lyrics, poetry, whatever you want to call it. And once that was over, I was like, okay, it's time. He has to come on 10 Questions. On his channel, you're going to find some interviews. You're going to find some unboxings, just general comic book content. Everybody join me in welcoming to 10 Questions, Actual Dracula.
Thank you, Jimmy. That was an amazing intro. And yeah, I'm really stoked to be here. This is, I think I messaged you a few weeks back. This is probably my favorite show on YouTube. I watch it every week. So yeah, really, thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to this.
You're very welcome, man. I'm excited to have you on. And I mean that when I tell you, like, okay, and I think I'd even told you sometime back, okay, man, I've got you down, and I did. I had you down on a list of people that I potentially wanted to talk to. And there are some criteria that I like people to have in my mind. And if you're a channel that I think is up and coming, a personality that I think is up and coming, I want to get you on here and find more out about you. And that you fit that bill, brother. Like I said, you're one of the most interesting people that I've come across on YouTube. And I'm excited to get to talk to you. All right. So question one is always the same. What or who got you into collecting?
Okay, so yeah, I've been reading comic books pretty much my whole life. I kind of it was one of those things, I just picked it up myself. Remember when I was a little kid, say 6, 7, 8 years old, see like in the magazine racks, this is, back when, if I could walk into the drugstore, the magazine racks actually had comic books in them. The ones here don't anymore. Anyhow, I'd see like, Batman and Spider-Man, and I always loved to draw. So I was drawn to the artwork immediately. So, started, I loved it right away. And then, so this was late 80s, and then late 80s, of course, Tim Burton's Batman film came out. And, that from that point on, Batman has been, absolutely one of my favorite characters. And so, yeah, I continued to read comic books. And like I said, I drew a lot. So, when the 90s came around, guys like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee, I was all about that, devouring all those books. I wanted to be those guys, right? I wanted to be able to draw like that. I used to actually get like Todd McFarlane, like the Spider-Man books, and like try and copy his drawings, right? I need to find some of those, dig some of those out.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I know I did one I was really proud of like, it was an Amazing Spider-Man, like with the lizard on the cover. I thought it was pretty good at the time. Anyhow, so yeah, continued to read comics, and then like a lot of people, by the time I got to high school, I kind of fell off a little bit. I still read books. I read Wizard magazine religiously to kind of see what was going on in the comic book world, when I wasn't really reading all that stuff, because although I had, kind of stopped reading a lot of Marvel and DC stuff and stopped really collecting books, I had got into, that was around the time I had discovered trades and graphic novels. And that's how I decided to to do all my reading. I also got into a lot of independent and small press stuff as well. So that kind of changed the way that kind of was one of the main reasons why I went that route as well. I remember there was a gift someone, I guess a friend of my parents had, he was like, "Oh, I heard your kid likes comic books. Here's a couple of these books maybe you'll want." And it was 3 graphic novels. It was one was Ed the Happy Clown, which is like a collection of this comic by this Toronto creator Chester Brown. It was like a collection of his comic Yummy Fur. So real like independent, real crazy stuff. Like I'd never seen anything like it before. And there was one Sandman trade and the Watchmen as well. So once I read those, I was like, well, comic books is so much more than just Spider-Man and Batman. There is a whole world out there to be discovered. And so for I'd say about past 15 to 20 years almost, I've been really just reading nothing but trades and graphic novels. And a little over a year ago, I decided to pull out my comic book collection that had been, it wasn't even like it was in storage that was hard to get to. It was just like at the back of a closet, but it was like out of sight, out of mind. Like I knew I had these comic books sitting there that I had since a kid, but just never really thought to, go through them. And so once I did, started to sort through them, I got hit with the collecting bug immediately and harder than ever before. Once I started going through my collection, I was like, okay, now I want to, I like these, but maybe I can get rid of these and get some new ones, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So question 2 is, and that kind of goes along, and I think you kind of, we kind of spoke to this, in that answer was, are you a reader or a collector? Like myself, when I ask this question on here, I am a reader who collects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I collect other stuff too. Like I collect trading cards and, I collect Grail books and things like that. But at the core, I am a reader.
Mm-hmm.
I like to buy the books and read them. Like I'm sitting here looking at, got 15 short boxes right now that are nothing but books that I bought to read.
Yep.
Like how are you more of a reader, or do you like to actually collect Grail books and things like that?
Well, my focus has definitely shifted in the past year because I was strictly a reader, right? Like I didn't care about collecting floppies at all. I was just doing trades. That was how I read, and so it was for reading. It wasn't just to collect something. Whereas so when I got back into this about a year ago, I'd say the focus has shifted more towards building my collection, trying to figure out what kinds of things I want to collect. And actually within that, the focus has shifted because when I first got back into collecting, I was like, okay, I got these Spider-Man books, X-Men. I was like, I wanted to start completing those runs. And so for the first about 6 months, that was my focus. But then I kind of, I've shifted away from that to, looking for, like minor keys and, just really cool covers. And so I've definitely shifted to more of that, I'd say, collector mode, although I'm still very much a reader. There's a lot of, new titles that I've been picking up primarily for reading. The number ones are always great to have in your collection, but like a lot of the new titles, yeah, I'm buying them to read. Absolutely.
Cool. So talk to me a little bit about, and this will be question 3.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about what the hobby is like in Canada. I had the Comic Vet on here, and Canada and the United States, I imagine, are not that different, really,
Right.
as far as the cities and things like that go. But kind of talk to me a little bit about what it is for you to go. Like, is there a local LCS for you that you go to? Do you strictly buy online? Like, what's the issue? What do you do there?
So I live in Toronto, which is a big city. So there's no shortage of comic book shops here. I definitely have several that I can get to easily. And I do. I have my LCSs. I've got about 3 or 4 LCSs that I regularly visit. So I'm fortunate in that way. And actually, I meant to mention this before. One of the great reasons about living a place, in a big city like this, is not just the number of shops, but the kinds of shops. There is a shop here called The Beguiling that focuses primarily on independent and small press stuff. So going into a shop like that, I was able to discover things that, if I lived somewhere else, I may never have even heard of. So I know, for people that live, in other parts of Canada, yeah, it's obviously not the same story. They might have 1 or 2 shops, might have to make a drive to get there. But so here I'm fortunate. Haven't had any issues with getting comic books over the past year. I have, as shops have been closed. They only just opened up recently in Toronto. So for the past year, I've been ordering a lot of stuff online. From other shops, from live sales on Instagram and Facebook. So in terms of what it's like collecting in Canada, it's hard for me to say, what it might be like if you live in the middle of nowhere in Saskatchewan. I imagine it's not that easy to find, shops. But here in Toronto, it's just like if I lived in, say, like you were saying, like Canada and America is not that different. The bigger difference really is if you're in an urban or a rural area, if you're in a big city or a small town, right? That's I think there's a much bigger divide there in terms of lifestyle than, say, Canadian and American. Like, I'm going to have much more in common with someone that lives in Chicago than I will someone that lives, out in Alberta in a wheat field, right? So,
right, sure.
yeah.
No, that makes total sense. And I think that's interesting too. That's one of the things, like where I live, right? So where I'm sitting right now at my home, the closest comic book, there's 2 comic book shops that I could get to, and they're each 45 minutes to an hour away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. And to have a shop that you can actually go to that focuses strictly on independent and small press stuff, I think would be awesome, because like you said, you get exposed to titles that other people don't get exposed to. Like my shop, the one that I frequent, where my business is at, there's a comic book shop 10 minutes from my office. Mm-hmm. And so that's the one that I frequent the most. And we don't have a big enough market for them to bring in true independence.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody has that big of an interest in them. So I have to keep an account with Midtown Comics in New York to essentially get the independent books that I want, the small press books that I want. So I think that's cool. Like, to be able to have that many shops around you that you could frequent. Like I said, and I think you're right. I think the parallel that you make between big city versus rural area is probably spot on. Our cultures aren't that different from the United States to Canada, as far as day-to-day life is concerned. But, like me, I live in the hills. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So question 4 is, and it kind of goes back to something you were talking about, that you were a trade reader. What is it about? Like, I think I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Like, when I got back into the hobby, like, it had been years, right? All I knew were floppies. That's all I knew. Yeah, I knew nothing about trades or omnibuses or the graphic. I knew nothing about those things, and I realized fairly quickly when I got back into the hobby that that's a big deal. Like, people collect those, those graphic novels, those collections. I mean, Jim Mint has a channel with statues and omnibuses. That's what he talks about. So what is it about what do you think anyway, it is about those books that are appealing?
Well, for me, it was always that I could pick up a book and then pick up the second book and the third book, and I'd have a complete story. Whereas if you're collecting floppies and you, now with something like, say, Amazing Spider-Man, it's a bunch of small stories. But if you want to read something like, say, Preacher, which is a complete story from start to finish and goes on for, I don't know, that thing went on for years. So for me to try and collect every single issue of Preacher to read it, that's going to take forever. Whereas I can just go buy the 10 trades, and that's the whole story, start to finish. And I did just that, and I've probably read Preacher 3 or 4 times all the way through. So that for me is the biggest plus to trades, is that you you can actually read a complete story in and it's not hard to find, right?
Right. I think what you're saying is right, because that's something like I just bought the Sandman omnibus. I have never read Sandman. Like, and that to be a comic book collector today, that sounds like it would be criminal, because that is the story that got a lot of people really into comic books because it was different than your superhero. Like, I can't wait to dig into that bad boy. I want to ask you, like you said, you started about a year ago, and I have found the same thing since I got back into it. The way that I collect has changed, God, 5 times. I mean, like, as I said, I think I was last week when I was talking to Karate Kevin, I was like, I was buying everything legit. Cover A, B, C, D. I mean, everything I could get my hands on, I was getting. Well, then I got back to where I was just buying cover A's. Well, now, just really due to space requirements, I'm reading a lot of stuff online. I'm looking into the omnibuses so that I can, and trade so that I can get complete stories and don't have to collect all the floppies to read the story. Like, talk to me about, since you really got back into it, like, how many times has it changed for you in a year?
Yep, multiple times for sure. Like I said before, when I started going through my collection, I was like, all right, you know what? I don't really care about big keys or anything like that. I want to complete this run of 90s X-Men, this run of 90s Spider-Man. I did that for a little while, but then I saw so many other things I would have much rather had. So I was like, you know what? Those books are easy to find. They're everywhere. I'm not even going to worry about those right now, So yeah, that it shifted away from that to initially looking for kind of collecting more stuff that I'd wanted to in the past and hadn't really. Stuff like Moon Knight. I started to collect Moon Knight, which I hadn't really done before. And then so I was looking for stuff like that, like Moon Knight, and I guess a couple other characters I don't remember. Just characters and titles I hadn't really collected before. I decided to check out. Maybe. Obviously, I'm not going to get all the keys or whatever right now, but if I find cool covers, I'll pick those up. And that was definitely one thing that changed. That I still kind of I'm a cover hunter. Like I will pick up a book simply because I really like the cover, and I'm not ashamed of that at all. So that's one thing that I think is likely not ever going to change for me, because again, the artwork, it was the artwork that got me into comic books in the first place. So if I see a really awesome cover, that's definitely going in my collection.
Do you still draw today?
I do, yeah. And I've been drawing my whole life, but I've gone through periods where I really haven't been drawing at all. I'll go through its peaks and valleys, like in terms of my creativity, how I'm feeling, and then doing different things. I used to kind of just mess around on the computer a bit. For a couple of years, I was just doing, geometric patterns and stuff like this. And then now I've really, in the past year, I've got really back into drawing, and a big part of that is just been inspired by seeing all these other people in the community, like Cardboard Crazies and Roscoe, Austin LeMay, seeing the kinds of things they're doing, and the Soul Twice as well. The fact that they're constantly creating stuff is like that keeps me motivated.
You, like, I can draw, okay, but I cannot take something from my mind and put it on paper. I can look at something and I can draw it, but I cannot, like, if I wanted to draw Superman right now, I couldn't do it. But if I got a Superman book or a statue or something to look at, I could draw it. Yeah. And I don't understand what the disconnect, how, like, when you draw, how do you draw? Can you just do whatever you want, or is it more looking at something and actually? putting it on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at something and draw it. I did a lot of that, especially throughout school, life drawing, where you're literally just looking at, still lifes or a model and just drawing that. And I did a lot of that, and I enjoyed it. But um, the way I kind of really like to draw is pretty free form. I don't necessarily have something planned out ahead of time. This is why drawing like comic book characters is actually very challenging for me, because like, say I want to draw Doctor Doom, you know, uh, I might sketch out, a whole bunch of different things that might resemble Doctor Doom before I actually get it to looking like Doctor Doom. Uh, and yeah, the way I like to draw is just, some people, they'll have just like, they know what they want and they'll put it on the page, super clean lines, and it looks beautiful. I can't do that. Mine looks like a scribbled mess until I clean it up. But that's just the way I draw.
Well, I find that interesting because I don't know what it is in my mind. Like I can, and I haven't drawn in a while, but
Hmm.
I mean, I used to draw a lot, but I could never like say, okay, I want to draw this picture, and I tried, I just couldn't do it, and I don't know what the block is, but I can draw something if I look at it. If I look at it, I can draw it, but I could never. Like it amazes me, the art, the creativity that a lot of people have when it, like you said, like Cardboard Crazies and Austin and Roscoe, all those guys, man, can just draw,
Hmm.
and and it's so impressive, and I just never could do it, so I find it amazing, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
and
So
Fable. When I saw what
Fable,
Fable was doing in 2 minutes, that blew my mind. That guy is
yeah,
incredibly talented.
yeah, no, that show is insanely hard. Lamer frame,
Yeah.
that is the hardest. I did okay, like my stuff was okay. I got really nervous because I actually had a chance to win, and I completely botched my last drawing. But as far as it was a lot of fun, and it's really challenging to take crayons or whatever and draw something in 2 minutes. It's really challenging.
Hmm.
So, question 5, and it kind of goes back to what everybody else, why we're here is why did you start a YouTube channel? Like, what happened that Adrian said, "Hey, let's do YouTube."
You know, I'm still not entirely sure myself. That's a very good question. So it kind of started with when I got back into collecting. I had no idea that this community even really existed on YouTube or on Instagram. And I guess I had just, kind of been searching comic books, general comic book stuff on YouTube, and started to discover, some channels. Some of the bigger channels at first, like Comic Tom, Very Gary, Comics with Bueller, Reggie Collects, stuff like that. And then from there, started discovering, you know, other channels because of, like people they would have on, like Pressable Defects or Gem Mint, and then this was at the same time I was interested in mystery boxes, because this was another thing I was totally new to before. Was I didn't realize comic book mystery boxes had become such a big thing. And so I started seeing all these mystery box unboxing videos, and I believe one of the first, if not the first I ever saw, was a DJ Lynx one. And 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 I liked him. I liked his personality. It was I'd started watching all these other unboxing videos, but his I kept coming back to. And then from there it kind of snowballed. Once I discovered Links, I discovered so many other channels in this community. And I guess just seeing all the different kinds of things people were doing, that everyone, a lot of people were kind of doing similar things. We're all talking about comic books, but every channel has, their own thing, their own way of doing it, their own personalities. And I thought, this just looks like fun. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I had made a couple of short videos on Instagram as a character of mine, Tommy over here, doing some unboxings, which is just some like New York guy who, he doesn't know anything about comic books. So, it's him struggling to describe what these things are. And I decided, well, I could probably make this a bit longer and put it out on YouTube. And once I decided to do that, it got me thinking about some of the other kinds of things I could do with my channel. Some of which I still have to get to. So my initial ideas for this channel are still here. They're still like the big things I really want to do. I haven't even revealed yet. Because I'm really just learning as I go along. I'm trying to kind of get the basics down. It's definitely a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but incredibly rewarding. And I'm just I appreciate everyone that has liked my stuff, that has subbed to me, and the feedback has been incredible. This community is just the most amazing group of people, and I've really appreciate all the feedback I've got. People seem to have kind of latched on to certain things I've done, and that I didn't necessarily expect to happen, but I'm glad that it has. Remy Q baby being one of them.
That was, I laughed so hard when I was watching that because it was, I don't know, that was the greatest thing ever. Like, I died watching that. I was like, all right, because I knew who you were already, but then I saw that and I was like, okay, all right, now I got to really dive into who this cat is.
Yeah, that was that was one of those things that I roughly planned out. I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out until I actually just do it, and I did it, and apparently a lot of people liked it. I guess one of the main reasons I did start this channel was because I knew one thing that I could bring to it is some comedy, inject some humor into this thing, because for me that's been one of the most important things in my life, and one of my biggest influences is just is comedy in general. Like, I grew up on a steady diet of watching sketch comedy stuff like Kids in the Hall, Monty Python, and then later on Mr. Show, Tim and Eric, stuff like that. So that's stuff that I've always kind of wanted to do myself, but never really had an outlet for. And I was like, well, I'll just create my own outlet to do this stuff. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. I love it. All right, so question 6 is this, and then we're going to get into the meat of this thing. Okay, so the name Actual Dracula. If for people who don't know, I'm sure you've been asked that 1,000 times, but for people who don't know, where did the name Actual Dracula come from?
I actually haven't been asked 1,000 times. I had a couple people ask me though, and it really kind of started out just kind of randomly. Like, I was having a discussion with someone. I was at a party or something, and I was like, "Oh, what if?" I think we were talking about Twitter, and I was like, "Well, what if Dracula had a Twitter account? What kinds of things would he write?" And so it started out as that. I literally the next day just started a Twitter account called "This is the Actual Dracula," and I tweeted some things. I did not use it very long because I didn't really like Twitter. I soon discovered, and so. But shortly after I discovered Instagram, decided to start an Instagram account, and I just figured, you know what, I like that name. I'm going to use Actual Dracula. And this was, gosh, I want to say about 7 years ago now, or however long I've had my IG account. And it was, it was a completely random mishmash of things, things I thought were funny, weird photos I take. And then that all changed when I started posting comic book content. The very first thing I did was I posted the first comic book I ever owned, which was an issue of Batman. He's like holding a big knife, some 80s Batman book. And from there, I started posting more and more comic book stuff. and that's when I started to realize I could actually use this name almost like not to create a character or persona necessarily. I didn't really want to do that because I want to be myself. You know, I don't want to feel like I have to like be in some kind of character, you know, all the time, which is something I had considered for my channel. But I'm just like, you know what, the best thing for me to do is just be myself. So I am Actual Dracula, which is it. What you see is what you get. And yeah, so it's kind of funny because it's I do play around with the whole Dracula vampire thing, but I don't make it like the focal point. And I think that's something that people have responded to, and that it's just they're just a little bit. That being said, there's going to be I might start ramping it up a bit soon. The let's bring some real Dracula into this Actual Dracula thing.
I love it. All right, so question 7. Let's talk about in the mix. Okay. So I think, you had been talking some smack in the chat during the rap battles, like bring me on, I will slay you fools, like Jimmy can come on SmallTown Collectibles, he'll take all you folks, like the whole thing. So, and I thought, okay, Drax just talking shit. He's just being Drax, being funny, doing his thing. And then you come on and unleashed, like, I don't even know how to explain what happened. Like, it was so creative. It was so deep. Like, I think we were all blown away. Like, I texted DM DJ after. I said, did you know Drax could write like that? And he was like, I had no clue. And so I want to talk, and this just opened up like so many questions for me, because the rap battle between you and Comic Cat 84, in my opinion, was epic. Like I actually thought you won, if I'm being 100% honest. Like, Comic Cat was great, but I actually thought your lyrics were so deep and so good that I thought you won. And I got it why Comic Cat 84 won. I got it. I mean, I wasn't mad at it. It was just, I thought, okay, I think Drax got that one.
I couldn't be mad at it either. He was phenomenal. Yeah.
No, he was great. He was dropping some crazy lines too. So I wanted to talk about, like, where does this creativity come from? Like, it opened up all these questions. Like, I wanted to know, like what do you, I don't want you to tell me where you work, but do you, like, what you do for a living, is it creative based?
Yes. It depends on the day, but I am a full-time cabinet maker, woodworker.
Okay.
So is it creative based? Yeah, some days it's a little more than others. I work in a small shop where we do all kinds of custom cabinetry, built-ins. We do we do a lot of kitchens, stuff like that, but we do whole custom homes. We do some commercial work as well. And I'm kind of really like in charge of all the building, some designing as well. A lot of times we're just working with designers and architects. But how I first got into this was absolutely the creative aspects of woodworking. When I was around 30, my early 30s, I wanted to just make a big change in my life. I ended up going back to school. I went back to school for fine woodworking, and I had no experience going into that whatsoever. I'd never used a table saw or anything like that before. And by the end of the program, which was under 2 years, I had built all kinds of pieces of furniture. I built this roll top desk I'm using right now, this thing behind me. So that it's a creative field. Now day to day, I'm not a hobbyist woodworker. So the stuff we build is stuff that people are paying us to build, which isn't necessarily roll top desks like this, because these things are very time consuming, and when you make one, people have to be willing to pay for them. And our day to day, our bread and butter is a lot of custom homes, custom kitchens, and like I said, some commercial work. We're working on a big school project right now or soon. So yeah. So yeah,
there
it
is,
is. My job is creative, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would have to think so. With the woodworking, I find that you're an interesting dude, man. So it's so the woodworking part. So where did the writing come from? Like, I mean, dude, you just unleashed and they weren't short rhymes. I mean, these things were long, and you had one for everybody. I mean, you even did the one after it was over. I think for Tyler that you had. Like, where did that come from?
So that, I guess that comes from, I don't write so much anymore. When I was younger, I'd say in my late teens, early 20s, I was in a phase where I was devouring books like crazy. I would read all the time. I'd totally shifted away from comic books and just started reading all kinds of different things, whether it was about philosophy or politics or religion, just all kinds of things. I read a lot and also started writing a little bit, mostly just, I guess, bad poetry, which is forgivable. I was the right age for that.
Yeah, sure.
And reading a lot of poetry as well, actually. Yeah, used to haven't, which is something I haven't done in a long time, but I used to read a lot of poetry. And so that's probably, I guess, just consuming all these different styles of writing and how different writers have intertwined different subject matter, that has kind of given me a sense of, I guess, when it came down to writing this, when it came down to the wordplay, I kind of already had, the building blocks there for like an idea of where I wanted to go with it. And that I really like that kind of, complex wordplay that not just stuff I've read, but I also used to watch quite a lot of rap battles, which I don't think anyone realized either, that I had been doing my research for years. In that, in Toronto, they used to have these rap battles called King of the Dot, which became pretty big. And I used to just watch hours and hours on YouTube of these rap battles. So I had an idea of how to approach this. Yeah.
Well, it was amazing. Like, I think we were all, like the one thing I have found more so than anything is that there are a lot of creative people in this community. Like, just like you said earlier, there's all the, people do different content in different ways. It's everybody's kind of got a strength, something that they play to. You get to see their personality a little bit. I mean, just like me, my channel is very much me. In that I am who you see. Like, I am the guy that you see all the time in my life. I'm probably a little harder in my business life than I am, on here. This is more fun for me. It's kind of an outlet for me. But it is very much who I am, where it's scheduled. It's, I adjust what I do roughly every 3 to 6 months. Like, you'll see new content. Like, I change to try to find, and that's what I've done in my business life. And I think we're going to watch your channel kind of do that too, as the creativity comes out, right? And I think you see that with a lot of channels. But I think we were all just blown away, dude. Like, nobody expected it. Like, I mean, like, we thought, okay, yeah, this guy's creative. He's funny. We like him. But what you dropped, I don't think anybody expected.
I didn't give anyone any clues. Other than I was just talking shit in the comments, but like you said, they were just like, "Oh, that's just Drac being Drac. He's just razzing Lynx and these guys." But the fact is, although I was really happy with what I wrote. Like I said, I'd watched lots of rap battles in the past. I had never rapped before, ever, not even attempted. Leading up to this, I kind of practiced in my head, but the words weren't coming out of my mouth. So what you saw was my very first attempt at this. And so I was thrilled. There was people in the comments and even the judges says, yeah, it sounds like a bit like you're reading. That's because I was. And I'm very open about the fact that I was reading it, because I was making changes right up until an hour before. So I hadn't memorized everything, I was moving things around. So I was reading it. And frankly, I was just really proud that I was even able to get all those words out, so yeah.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
I had a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was what DJ has built there. If it continues, basically, because that was hands down the best one that he's done as far as the rap battle goes, and really bringing people on that are truly, truly creative that can, that can write rhymes like that. It was insane. Like it was so entertaining. Like I was so blown away by what you and Comic Head did that I was like, hell, I even posted it on my story, later that night. I was like, if you haven't watched this, go watch this. I was so blown away. And the fact that you dropped a 10 questions reference in the first round.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Against Biggie, I was like, oh yes. Like, oh yeah, you don't know. I mean, that's like the biggest form of flattery, right? Somebody uses your 10 questions show in the rap battle performance. I loved it.
I also had kind of another mini shout out to you in there. I don't know if you caught that, where I said, I'm a vampire bat, not a great ape with an ape drape. That's a Kentucky waterfall to you.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely heard the Kentucky waterfall. Yeah, no, for sure, man. No, like I said, man, it was phenomenal, and I was like, all right. Like, I got to know what this guy does. Like, does he write for a living? Is he secretly like a famous rapper in Canada? Like, is there something we don't know? He's going out every night like Eminem and battling, for his supper. I don't know. Like, it was just, I don't know. I was just blown away, dude. I mean, like, it really, well done.
Thank you.
And really, Simple Simon was great. Everybody was great. Biggie was on it that night. Like, that was the best Biggie had done.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so good.
I like Biggie. I mean, and that was the thing. Like there was leading up to that, the whole sock puppet gate thing. There was some chatter back and forth. But like I said, like I've always liked Biggie. I wanted to battle him on purpose because I know he does this all the time, and I was like, if I can face Biggie and win, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this, right?
Yeah. That was great, man. Like I said, it was well done by you, and I could literally, as soon as it was over, I was like, okay, I got to message Drac, get him on 10 questions. I got to talk to him. All right. So, all right, question. I think we're on question 8. Something that we talked about earlier, but something that, really is a conversation. I see it across a lot of channels. And so I've made it one of my questions for several weeks now. And that is about the indie market. And I'm interested as a creative, as a person who, has a creative bone in their body, as far as what you do for work, the writing, the drawing, all those things. A lot of people are, I wouldn't say they're going away from the big two. The big two are always going to be the big two. You got Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk. I mean, they're always going to be the classic characters that we all grew up loving, so you're never going to go away. But from a true storytelling standpoint, a lot of people are headed over to the indie market. I know some of the first books I read after I read Soups is the indie books. And why do you think that is? As a person who's read a lot over the years, read a lot of books, why do you think people are trending over to the indie market?
Yeah, that is a very good question, and one that there's obviously not going to be a simple answer to. My kind of initial thought is maybe just I don't want to say a shift to focus on the storytelling, on the writing, because that's always been there. It's been 50-50 with comic books. So maybe it's people just not being very happy with the kind of things the big two are doing, the directions that they're taking. Characters, obviously, certain titles have been very popular the past couple of years. Venom, for example. But like I read, when I got back into collecting, I started picking up, Batman, probably around issue 88 or something. It was just like the beginning of the Joker War thing. And I read all that. I read up to like issue 100. And then I was like, you know what? I'm taking this off my pull list. It's just not, the story is just not really doing anything for me. I like the artwork, but I don't know. There was just, if I was going to spend my time and money. I wanted a little something more out of the storytelling, out of the writing. I just did not find the story very compelling. But some of these newer books, these independent books, I started reading Noctera, and I was like, this is a really compelling story. I'm really enjoying it. And there's a lot of new titles like that, whether it's Stray Dogs. I just started reading something that is Killing the Children. Actually, I was late to the game on that, but I'm really enjoying that so far. A Nice House on the Lake promises to be the best series of the year. So, in terms of why there definitely has been this big shift, like I've always read, like I've been reading independent books, for 20 plus years, but there's never been the kind of support for them like that we're seeing now, which is really amazing. It's really important to support these creators, even if there's someone that's been on a big book like Scott Snyder or James Tynion. It's like, yeah, but when they're doing an independent book, they're telling the story that they want to tell. Yeah, Scott Snyder had an amazing run on Batman, but like Noctera is really, Batman's not his. Noctera is his baby, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a well-known creator. I'm really happy to see these things kind of getting the recognition they deserve.
I think too, like you're seeing a lot of books be published today, like through Kickstarters and things like that, where people can actually get their books out. Like I think we both interviewed Jason Douglas.
Yeah.
And that book was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
That was a great read. I thought it was so deep and it was just so good. And he was great to talk to, right? Like he was a phenomenal interview as far as a dude to sit down and talk to. And, people who are able to get their books funded now, I think there's a lot more people who can. There's just a lot more people who have avenues to actually get books funded. And I think that's a big thing too with the internet and, this, kind of, rise in popularity for comic book content.
The internet changed it. Absolutely. Like I said, I've been fortunate enough to have kind of somewhere to get independent books. Living in Toronto, there are shops that have these kinds of things that, I could walk in and find small press books, books that have 1,000 print run total, I'm talking like stuff like that no one else would have ever seen unless you happen to walk into that or one of the few other shops that carried their books. And the internet changed all that because now anyone around the world can find out about your project, and if they like the sound of it, back it and support it and ultimately read it, which may not have been a possibility before.
Right. No, it's unbelievable. It really is. Like, I really do like it. I think it's awesome. Like, I want to come to Toronto and come to a store or a shop where it's just independent books and see what's there. Like, and like I said, I'm always going to read Superman. Like, even like DC right now has some really good writing. Like the Swamp Thing is phenomenal. Right.
I haven't read that, but I heard it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, if you haven't read it, you need to jump on it. I mean, like it is so good. Nightwing is really, really good right now. The Suicide Squad is really good. I like Teen Titans Academy. I'm getting a little tired of the whole Red X thing, but like let's move on with our lives. But though they're still good books, with DC and Marvel. But the indies, man, that's just where it's at for me right now.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I still pick up. Every month they still pick up Thor and Wolverine. Although with those, it's always like those books I'm going to collect because that's just my love, out of love for those characters. I do like them though. I do like the writing in those books. But generally speaking, any Marvel or DC books I'm buying now are almost always back issues. I find 90% of the new books I'm buying are independent titles.
Yeah, I feel much the same way. I'm reading a lot of stuff. I'm not picking up a lot of DC titles to keep in a collection. In Marvel, I'm more of a DC guy than I am Marvel. I mean, I read some Marvel. I love Spider-Man and Hulk and all that stuff. But, I find more that I'm buying the independent stuff that I actually bring home and stick in a short box to keep. And the others, I'm finding a different way to consume them. So yeah, I find that question interesting because everybody's got a different answer for it, and I loved your answer. So all right, questions 9 and 10 are pretty basic. 9 is you've got the Blue Jays hat on. So are you a sports fan?
I am. Yeah. I love my Blue Jays. I like baseball and hockey, of course. Growing up in Canada, and I've been watching hockey my whole life. So I am, unfortunately, a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, which is, I mean, I'm proud to be a Maple Leafs fan, but it's like this is the most disappointing team in the history of sports. They did not win the Stanley Cup this year, and who knows what will happen next year. I will say, although because of the Toronto-Montreal rivalry, one is not publicly supposed to support the Montreal Canadiens, but I really do would love to see them win the cup this year, because just a Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in I think it's like 18 years or something.
Wow,
I don't remember.
I didn't realize that. I am not. I live in Kentucky. We're basketball fans. We don't have pro teams. Like closest hockey team is the Columbus. I think the Blue Jackets is what they're called.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this about hockey. Like watching it on TV, I don't quite understand it. Like I don't get it yet because I don't watch it enough to really know the rules. Right. But there is nothing better live and in person with a full crowd than a hockey game. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, the energy at a hockey game is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you 100%. I don't get to go to many because the Toronto Maple Leafs also have like the highest ticket prices of almost any team anywhere. Toronto is can be an expensive city at times, but pretty much all the time. That being said, I love going to see hockey games. I love going to baseball games as well, which are definitely more affordable, and I just love the atmosphere of a baseball game.
I do too. There's not a better way to spend an evening than it's different for me, right? Like going to a Reds game. Cincinnati's the closest place to us, so going to a Reds game, there's not a better way to spend an evening. I mean, it's, you're outside. It's generally, if you watch an evening game, it's pretty cool. You got hot dogs, peanuts, Cracker Jacks, all the stuff, and then watching a ball game. And, it's kind of laid back in a way, so you can sit and talk to your family, and it can be social, and you can watch the game too. I love it. Now, like I said, hockey is visceral. Like there is something about going to a hockey game that is just fun. I mean, like it is so much fun. Like going to a Kentucky basketball game, people don't get it, but going to Rupp Arena is like going to church. It's like going to the Mecca, right? It's huge. Like Rupp Arena is massive compared to other college basketball arenas.
Right.
And it is like, and the way that they spotlight the floor and the whole atmosphere of it, like in Kentucky, it is legit like going to church. It's that kind of deal. Everybody, when you're born, you are born into the Big Blue Nation, and that's part of it. So no, I'd always seen you wearing like the Toronto hat, and I thought, okay, my boy's probably a sports fan, so that's something else we would have in common.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I can see that. Like, I don't watch a lot of basketball. I watch the Raptors pretty much. Not all the time, seeing them win the championship was incredible. But I see, the bits and pieces here of other games I do watch, and even I see some of the college basketball games. Yeah, the energy there is intense. Like that looks like it's right up there with a hockey game for sure.
Yeah, no, if you're a basketball fan, like coming to Rupp Arena, like going to Kansas and watching a game in Kansas or coming to Rupp are probably, like bucket list items because Rupp is unbelievable. So, I mean, it just really is as far as the atmosphere for a game. All right, question 10. What book are you looking for that you don't have right now? Like what's a grail for Drac right
now? So a grail for me right now is Tomb of Dracula #1. I have seen some. Over the past year, I kind of looked at generally what people had, on like eBay and stuff, and it's pricey. Nothing that I'd really, be comfortable with spending right now. But I did just get a Man from Beantown mystery box because the grand prize in that is a Tomb of Dracula #1. So
I hope you win.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. And thank you. I got to thank you, DJ Links, for telling me about that. Yeah. He was looking out for me. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome, man. All right. So that is the 10 questions. And dude, I just want to again thank you for coming on. And people, if you're watching this interview and you're not subbed up to Drac, you need to go over there because there is something big going to happen with this channel. Like there's just been too many like little nuggets. Like you see the spark, different places, like glimpses of what can actually occur on this channel. So make sure that you go over there and check out Adrian at Actual Dracula. I think he's on IG and then obviously YouTube, putting out content. And then like legit, you might find him anywhere. He's been on Let's Talk About It, Now 10 Questions. He was on In the Mix the last 2 weeks in a row. He's basically taken over. Was it LJ Dinks' channel?
That's right.
Yeah. He's basically taken over everybody's channels. So, I mean, he may be doing 10 questions. Like if I need to go on vacation, I may just have Drac do 10 questions. I don't know. We'll see. He's be everywhere.
Anytime, man. I'd be honored to do a Drac takeover for sure.
I love it. All right, man. Thank you so much, guys. Before we wrap up, as always, go over to Street Level Hero LA. Use the code STC10. That'll get you 10% off your order. But most importantly, 25% of your overall order is donated to the American Cancer Society for Cancer Research. Very important cause to me. Go over there, find something cool. There's always something cool to buy on that website. Go over there, check it out, use the code, and help raise some money for a great cause. Guys, Actual Dracula. The Actual Dracula was on 10 questions. What can I say? Go check him out. You're just not going to go wrong. All right, guys, as we always end these things, until next time.